Dickie Dread, New Age Travellers, A History, 1960 to 1990. Chapter 3, The Convoy Starts to Form. Key non-punk bands. Then, of course, there was Hawkwind. Hawkwind began life in 1969, born out of the acid-drenched aftermath of the 1960s, but aimed firmly at the stars. Formed by Dave Brock, a busker and blues guitarist from West London, the band was originally called Group X, before settling on Hawkwind. Their early sound fused heavy rock, freeform psychedelia and electronics, part jam, part trance, part sci-fi soundtrack. They quickly became synonymous with space rock, thanks to the hypnotic swirl of synthesizers, notably from Dick Mick and Adele Detmar, throbbing bass lines, often by Lemmy Kilminster, later of Motorhead, and thunderous repetitive riffs. They weren't just a band, they were a hallucinatory experience, enhanced by strobe lights, dancers like Stacia, and an anti-establishment ethos that made them favourites at Britain's freak scene. Their breakthrough came with In Search of Space, 1971, followed by the live masterpiece Space Ritual, 1973, a sci-fi opera of sorts combining anarchic energy with mind-expanding audio chaos. At their height, Hawkwind played free festivals, squatted venues and toured in battered vans, crammed with speakers, dope and dreams. In 1972 they released their only mainstream hit, Silver Machine, fronted by Lemmy, who gave the band a harder, punkier edge. They were eventually booted out for excessive amphetamine use, a feat given Hawkwind's drug consumption levels. The mid to late 1970s saw constant line-up changes, feuds and evolution. Collaborators like Robert Calvert, poet and frontman, and Nick Turner, saxophonist and cosmic shaman, shaped the band's identity, shifting from sci-fi themes to dystopian politics and critiques of militarism, capitalism and surveillance, years before punk would make such ideas fashionable. By 1980, Hawkwind had survived breakups, busts, police raids and financial chaos, but remained cult icons of the UK's alternative scene. They were regulars at Stonehenge Free Festival, deeply embedded in the Traveller movement, and are still flying the flag for free expression, noise and psychic rebellion. As an amusing side, the name Hawkwind was apparently coined by Nick Turner, and it's generally understood to have emerged as a combination of his habits and interests. Hawk referred to Turner's reputation for making loud, rasping, coughing and spitting noises, a kind of hawking. Wind came from his frequent flatulence, i.e. breaking wind. I would not state any shrapnel on this, but I like the story. Another key band was Here and Now, who emerged in 1974, born from the same soil as the squatter collectives, anarchist communes and psychedelic experiments that coloured post-hippie Britain. They weren't just a band, they were a travelling community, a rolling experiment in collective living and sonic freedom. Formed by Keith Bailey on drums and vocals, along with a rotating cast of musicians, poets and activists, Here and Now stood at the crossroads of psychedelia, punk and anarchism. Band's ethos was fiercely DIY. They refused to charge for gigs, lived communally, and often played on the back of trucks at free festivals, squat parties and peace protests. Their motto, free music to free people. They were a key part of the free festival circuit from the mid-1970s, appearing at Deeply Vale, Windsor, Stonehenge and countless others. Known for sprawling hypnotic jams and full-throttle live energy, Here and Now built their reputation outside the music industry altogether. No managers, no contracts, just a battered van, few instruments and a willingness to play anywhere. In 1977, they famously teamed up with the early incarnation of Gong's David Allen to form Planet Gong, releasing the now legendary album Live Floating Anarchy 1977. It captured their trippy chaos perfectly, part space rock, part proto-punk, all delivered with a kind of wild communal joy. Interestingly, Allen insisted that the members of Here and Now not to partake of drugs and alcohol during the tour, something they had never even considered. Whilst I'm sure there were some mishaps along the way, they actually stuck to this rule for the gigs. Keith told me they actually enjoyed it. I used to squat 2 doors down from Here and Now in Kingston in the mid-1980s. Though they never cracked the mainstream, by 1980, Here and Now had become one of the core sonic voices of the free culture underground, tied to anarchist squats, spiritual experiments, dope-smoking woodlands, and the roots of the peace convoy that was beginning to stir. Note that it seems to be common legend that Here and Now played every Stonehenge festival. This is not strictly true. Stonehenge wasn't always consistently held in its early years. For example, after Windsor 1974, the festival slowly grew. Police harassment, mechanical failures, drug busts and chaos meant even the most dedicated band missed a year or two. Line-ups were often unannounced or shifted spontaneously. Playing sometimes meant turning up with gear and plugging into whatever rig was available, but Hawkwind and Here and Now certainly came close. Osric Tentacles emerged from the UK's free festival circuit in the early 1980s, blending psychedelic rock, spacey riffs, dub bass lines and prog virtuosity into a swirling, wordless sound that became a staple of Traveller life. Founded by Ed Wynn and friends at Stonehenge Free Festival, the band quickly became a sonic backdrop to the road, their music often blasting from Traveller rigs, smoke-filled domes and hazy sunrises at festivals like Avon, Molesworth and Torpedo Town. They were never a political band, but their music resonated with cosmic idealism and altered states that shaped much of the scene's early ethos. Completely instrumental, their tracks were open-ended journeys, no fixed narrative, just energy, movement, escape. For many travellers, especially those from the psychedelic or spiritual end of the culture, Osrics were a soundtrack to motion, meditation and mushroom-fueled transcendence. They also kept their DIY roots for a long time, self-releasing cassettes, selling tapes out of vans and avoiding the mainstream industry. Though they later gained more formal success, they remained closely associated with the Traveller vibe, often playing the kind of gigs that blurred into all-night gatherings. To this day, the legacy holds firm in the culture. Not rabble-rousers, not psychonauts, but psychonauts, offering sound without slogans and a space to breathe.